Hello, mathematicians. Welcome back to Number Corner. For Number Corner today, we will be looking again at our daily rectangle. Today, you will need your Number Corner book and a pencil. We'll be working on pages 92 and 93. You can pause the video now to get what you need. Now, today, just like the last time we were in our daily rectangle, I have drawn and labeled the dimensions for today's rectangles. Now I want you to see again if you can imagine what these frames will look like when they are all filled in with tiles. Think about the rows and the columns on each frame. Think about how many tiles there would be on the inside if we filled each frame in. Now you may be thinking about a few different things. You may see our 1 by 20 frame up here. You might be thinking right away, well, if there's only one row and it's 20 tiles long, or 20 columns, then there's probably 20 tiles in this rectangle. Show a connection if you agree. Yeah, you might also be thinking, well, this might be another one of those really long, skinny rectangles we've been seeing every day. And you would be right. How about this next rectangle down here? It looks like we'll have how many rows? Show me your fingers. 4. We'll have 4 rows. 4 rows of how many tiles each? Show me your fingers. 5. 4 rows of 5 tiles. How many columns will we have in this rectangle? I hope you're thinking 5. Show a connection if that's what you were thinking. Yeah, we'll have 5 columns. This rectangle will be almost square, but not quite. It'll be a little wider than it is tall. How about this rectangle here? How many rows? How many columns? Will it be another long, skinny rectangle? Will it be kind of short, maybe kind of wide? What do you think? Show a connection if you're thinking it'll be kind of long. Yeah, kind of long, but not as long as our rectangle up here. It'll be about half the length because it's half the tiles. We've kind of cut our long, skinny rectangle in half. We'll have 2 rows of 10 for this rectangle. Now that we have a better idea of what these rectangles will look like, let's jump into our Number Corner book. On page 93, we're on 93 today, to write the dimensions and some equations for these rectangles. Then we'll go back and work on the last few days. Remember the other day we didn't quite finish up going back to look at our rectangles, so we'll see if we can get the rest of our days filled in. Let's open up page 93 in our Number Corner books. Now, your page 93 might look a little different than mine. Page 93 for you will start at number 18, at our 18 tiles. You should have 2 rows already filled in. Let's skip 19 for now, and let's record our rectangles that we made, or imagined making, with 20 tiles. We could make a 1 by 20, another long, skinny rectangle. We could make a 2 by 10, a little shorter rectangle, a little, or not as wide, and a little taller actually, 1 row taller. And then we made a 4 by 5. What are some equations we could make? Now, I hope you're thinking about that 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and how long it would take us to write down 21 plus 1 plus 1s. And I really hope you're thinking, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. Well, neither do I. How could we write that in an easier way? Now think about that long row. How many tiles are in that row? Well, how many times did we see it? Well, we saw 20 tiles, but we only saw them one time. One row of 20 still equals 20 tiles. We can write this for our equation. For our next rectangle, well, remember those rows we saw? Our rows were much shorter for this one, and we saw 2 of them. We saw 10 tiles in one row, plus another 10 tiles in the next row to still give us our 20 tiles. Or we could say that we saw our 2 rows of 10 like this. We want to use that one, the multiplication symbol, to still give us our 20 tiles. How about for our 4 by 5? What are some equations we could write there? How many rows did we see? Well, we saw 4 rows, but 4 rows of how many? Show me your fingers. Yeah, 4 rows of 5. So we really saw 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. We saw our 4 rows of 5, or our 5 tiles in a row 4 times. Either way, it still equals 20. So we saw our 4 rows of 5 tiles each. Those are just some of the equations we can write. You might be able to think of a few more. Let's fill in our books on these 3 rows for 20, and then we'll go back and look at the frame for our 19 tiles. Let's see what that rectangle will look like. All right, here's our frame for our 19 tiles. Do you have a good picture in your head of what this rectangle will look like? Thumbs up or thumbs down. Let's see if it looks like this in your head. Is this what you were picturing? Yeah, another long, skinny one. Let's write it in our books. By our 19 tiles, let's write the dimensions or the label of 1 by 19. And I bet you already know what our equation will be. Think of that one row of 19. We see that those 19 tiles, 1 time, to still equal 19. Let's fill that in. Now let's go back a few days in our chart, in our rectangle review chart here. Let's go back to the 14th and the 15th for our 14 and 15 tiles. Before I show you the dimensions of our tiles, I want you to think about what rectangle we'll have for each day. There's one rectangle we have every day that's really similar. You know what I'm thinking about? Show connection if you think. You might know what rectangle I'm talking about. Yeah, if you're thinking about a long, skinny rectangle, that's good thinking. We have a long, skinny rectangle for just about every day. For the 19th, we have our 1 by 19. For the 18th, our 1 by 18. For the 17th, our 1 by 17. For the 16th, our 1 by 16. What do you think our long, skinny tile for the 15th will be? Draw a connection if this is what you were thinking. Will you think we have a long, skinny 1 by 15? Yeah, that's really good thinking. We will. We'll have that long, skinny rectangle. What do you think our equation would be for that rectangle? Look back at our last equations for our long, skinny rectangles. What do you think we should put here? I want you to imagine that one row. How many tiles would be in that one row? Yeah, if you're thinking 15, that's good thinking. One row of 15 tiles will still give us 15 tiles. We're going to have another long skinny rectangle for our 14 tiles too. What do you think we'd label that one? I know I'm not going to show you. I want you to really think in your mind what it would look like, what we would label it. 14 tiles, long skinny rectangle. Is this what you were thinking? That one row by those 14 tiles? Show a connection if that's what you were thinking. Yeah. So if we have those 14 tiles all stretched out, how many times do we see that row? Show them in your fingers. We'll only see it once. 14 tiles, one time, one long skinny row, still equals 14. Now, I'm going to show you what our other two rectangles will look like for the 14th and the 15th, but only their frames. And then we're going to think of some more equations after we label these two rectangles. Let's have a look at those frames. In blue, we have our second rectangle for our 14 tiles, and in green, we have our second rectangle for our 15 tiles. I want you to put a picture in your mind of what you think these rectangles would look like if they were filled up with tiles. Do you have that picture in your mind? Give me a thumbs up if you have that picture. Let's see if the picture in your mind looks the same as this. Show a connection if this is what you pictured. Yeah, that's good thinking. Let's put these in our number corner books. Now, our second rectangle for 14 tiles showed 2 rows of 7 tiles. How could we write an equation for that? You might be thinking we saw one row of 7 plus another row of 7 to equal 14, and we sure did. We also saw some columns. How many tiles were in each column? Show me your fingers. Yeah, there were 2 tiles in each column, and we saw 7 columns. Now we could write that we saw 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 to show that we saw columns of 2 7 times. Or we could say that we saw 7 columns of 2 to equal our 14. Either way works. Let's look at our next rectangle we made. We made a rectangle for 15 that had 3 rows, and each row had 5 tiles. That rectangle was a 3 by 5. We could write a couple different equations for that one. We could say we saw those rows of 5 3 times to equal 15. We could say we saw our columns of 3 5 times. 3 plus 3, 3, that's 3 times, 4 times, 5 times to equal 15. We could say that in a shorter way. We saw those columns of 3 5 times. Still equals 15. All right, mathematicians, that's all the time we have today. Make sure you finish filling in this page in your number corner books. Take a picture when you're done and show your teacher your hard work. I'll see you next time for Number Corner.